Short of a total collapse, it looks like three teams have pretty much punched their tickets to the UFL playoffs. What about the fourth team? We will get into that. It's the Bottom Line Podcast, and it starts now.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Oh, week number 7 is in the books. Looking forward to week number 8. Let's get my guys up here. Got KJ and Brett. How you guys doing?
Lovely.
Speaking of bad guys, here we are.
Oh God. So did we learn anything from week 7? Did we find out anything? Did we decide anything, or we still got a lot of football to play, it looks like to me.
Yeah, everything's wide open, looks like. I mean, technically, I don't guess anyone's eliminated. Of course, you've got Birmingham, Louisville, and Dallas with the easier track to get the 4th playoff spot. I guess Houston and Columbus is not technically eliminated yet, are they?
No, I got all those scenarios that we can play out when we get to that, but we're going to start off a little bit different this week, and we're going to have Brett touch on a little bit of there was an attendance issue that seems to be rearing its ugly head a little bit towards the end of this season, so we're going to go ahead and pop up the numbers for week 7, and Brett, you can start in, and then I'll flip the other one up there when you get to that.
Well, we can bag on Houston or Birmingham or even DC or even St. Louis. But one thing that I'm trying to tell the UFL fans and the UFL group that we've got on Facebook, which, by the way, we're over 32,000 strong now and still growing daily, which is fantastic. It's a great sign. I see that the social media platform following for the United Football League on all platforms is continuing to grow, which is, again, another good sign. But it's a tell-all, I think, when everyone is kind of down at this point. And I think it's a multitude of things. Ed, you touched on some of the economy issues, which I deal with on a daily basis because I'm in housing. So I see it, hear the stories every day. The families with 2 and 3 kids. Again, I've got a bunch of fur babies. I don't know how people with kids make it these days with the cost of living and everything that goes on. There's some really, I think some pretty good ideas that I've come up with. And I don't say me, I think this is some things that other people have said throughout the years that could really help the league moving forward. And I'm sure KJ definitely has an opinion on this. Keep in mind, Mike and UFL officials, you guys can't really control the parking situations at these stadiums. I hear a lot with the DC fan base, with St. Louis and some others about parking situations. From what I gather, there is no parking in DC. It's not the easiest thing in the world in Birmingham, although you can get in there. I've been going to season. I think I missed one home game in 5 years in Birmingham, and I've really never had any problems. Don't have any problems with car getting broken into, theft, any of that nonsense. Where Protective Stadium is, it's a really good area that they've improved dramatically there in Birmingham, which KJ is very familiar with. He's been there a couple times. So all this, the excuses that we get sometimes about the Legion Field, well, this ain't Legion Field. It's right next to a new restaurant sector they've got there. They just upgraded the old BJCC into the Legacy Arena. You've got Top Golf there. It's really a nice area. Everyone seems to get along. I love the atmosphere, and I hope it's that way with the other 7 markets. Although I hear some parking issues, but this is one thing that Mike, you and the league is going to have to maybe wrap your head around moving forward. When people buy $25 or $50 tickets, and they've got 2 kids and the wife, well, you think it's just $100. It's pretty affordable. That's not necessarily incorrect, but then you got to factor in the parking costs, and you got to factor in the food and beverages and the hot dogs and the candy for the kid and the cotton candy. And I think you guys have done a pretty good job at trying to work on that this year. And I think the economy has played somewhat of a part in our attendance issue. But again, one of my big plans, and I think it's very affordable. Of course, that's coming from me. I'm a nobody, but I've helped run businesses before. I've owned my own company before, so I have a little bit of an idea. I can't grasp how huge a spring football league is and just the overall crazy cost that's involved from the insurance to on and on and on. But Ed, do you got the pop-up tent handy?
Yeah.
This is one thing that I think is a must going forward. We've got 8 markets right now. We're going to try to expand to 10 in 2028. So I just did a rough AI of what we need outside every major sporting event in these cities. It don't take but 2 to 3 people. I want you to have different sales and bonus codes. And hey, you've never been a season ticket holder, check in the system. Great. Buy one, get one free season ticket next year for the Houston Gamblers, for the Ohio Aviators, whatever. But Houston has the Houston Rockets. They've got the Houston Astros. They've got the soccer team. One of these pop-up tents with all the Gamblers logos and stuff should be outside every one of these venues as many times as possible. In St. Louis, same thing with the Battlehawks. You're going to need to be outside the St. Louis Cardinal Stadium. You're going to need to be outside the St. Louis Blues. Oh, yeah, they've got a professional soccer team too, by the way. Just having your name out there constantly why was there not a Columbus Aviator season ticket tent outside the Horseshoe when Ohio State and Texas played this year in the first game of the year? Where are we at, guys? I don't know what it costs to rent a spot outside one of these stadiums. I'm sure between Mike Rapoli and all the sponsors, y'all can get either a free or sweetheart deal. In Birmingham, they need to be, we had a basketball team. They've got the Birmingham Barons. Oh yeah, there's two teams in Alabama called the Alabama Crimson Tide and Auburn Tigers. They have 89,000 for each game at home. Alabama has 100,000 respectively every game at home. You can't tell me that hiring two people fresh out of college with good personalities that know how to work a laptop could not make this work. I think it's a lot more cost effective than blinking or changing billboards that you're going 80 miles an hour down the road and the billboard changes every 3 seconds. Well, hell, you can't read anything without running somebody over or pulling over. This is the kind of grassroots marketing I think that we're all talking about, and this needs to be in every city. Let me see, in Columbus, Ohio State. Then they've got a soccer team. Oh, yeah, they've got the Columbus Blue Jackets. One of these pop-up tents, just one, at one of the main entrances and exits set up before and after each one of these games. Now, it's the same old thing in sales. You throw more, the more crap you throw on the wall, the more it's going to stick. I know that's not necessarily politically correct, but it's factual that there's numbers that back that up. A pop-up tent like this, exactly like this, needs to be outside all those venues moving forward. What else we got? Dallas has got the soccer team. Oh, yeah, you got the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, yeah, you got the Dallas Mavericks. Oh, yeah, you got the Dallas Stars. Why are we – because I know we've got such good fans on Facebook and on X. If these pop-up tents were outside these venues, like I'm saying, we get a picture of them because guess what? We've got so many fans in our UFL fans group, they literally post a picture, do they not, KJ?
Yep.
Anything that we see UFL related, if somebody finds it, my God, they post it in our group letting us know the league is doing a part. This is, to me, the cheapest, most cost-effective way that y'all can try to get some butts in the seats. I really think just give it 1 year, Mike. I think this will work. I mean, 5 turns into 10, 10 turns into 20, 40 turns into 80, and before you know it, I mean, you're there. You're there. You have so many people that are literally interested because they're passing by your tent. You don't have to chase them down. You're there. And another thing which I've yelled to the mountaintop for 6 or 7 years now, go back and look at TV numbers and attendance for the AAF in 2019, the XFL in 2020, and even you can go to XFL 2023. All those had better numbers on TV and attendance. And again, I think it's because they started the season sooner. I know some markets are in cold weather markets now. I want to see, as soon as you guys get started, Mike, you're on this, you've thought about this, you've already mentioned it. As soon as you can start after the Super Bowl, the better. And it's because you strike while the iron's hot. I mean, people are, after the Super Bowl, everybody's already bitch complaining, oh, God, it's 7 months to the football, or it's 6 weeks to the UFL, it's 8 weeks to the UFL. No. 2 weeks. 2 weeks max after the Super Bowl, we need to be started. And again, one thing that XFL 2020 did such a great job of, and Mike, you've touched on this, you need to get with Oliver Luck. The best quarterback play possible. I don't know if you're going to have to pay quarterbacks a little bit more than other players. You can say that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but quarterbacks move the needle. And that's what XFL 2020 seemed to get right. Was that they were willing to pay quarterbacks a little bit more money. And now that spring football's been around so much longer and been so consistent, you're going to have more guys like Dorian Thompson-Robinson interested and showing off his abilities. But those are the two main things I really think would just boost attendance dramatically, is closer to the Super Bowl that you can get. And let's get some pop-up tents outside these venues and all these stadiums. I live 5 miles from Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's a damn travesty that a Birmingham Stallions tent is not set up outside that thing every home game, because there's 100,000 people inside. There's another 25 to 30 easy that tailgates, and it's like that in every city. Houston, my God, you've got 8-10 million people, and you've got so many sports teams. I'm sure I passed one of them up. 30,000 per game with the Astros, 15,000 per game with the Rockets. I don't know how many with the soccer team, but the list goes on and on. You have a laptop there ready to try to, even if you don't get the sale right then, you've got a list of interested people you can follow up with before the season kicks off. I know it's a little bit of legwork, but I think it's a lot cheaper than billboards, and I think it's going to be a hell of a lot more effective. KJ, Ed, you guys got anything to add?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, brother. We've been preaching it for a long time, but that's the biggest thing both you and I have spoken on in the past. We would love to see, and I think what's her face from St. Louis mentioned she had seen one in a previous game. I think that is true, but to Brett's point, sadly, I think that was like seasons ago. We're talking, the first year of UFL, and we're far past that from a timeline standpoint. They've got to, especially with changing ownership, you've got to get a refresher there to kind of reignite the spark of interest and help the numbers trend the right direction. So,
and I think we can all agree that the quality of football has been good this year. It's been a lot of fun, but but Mike is right. It's a hell of a lot better when you've got people yelling and screaming in the stands. And Rome wasn't built in a day, and I don't think this is going to turn around from an 8,000 average to a 16,000 average overnight, but we can definitely get this back in the black for the first time and start showing some signs and really get some positive momentum headed into these next two cities. Oklahoma City is a fantastic idea, Mike. I've been screaming for that for years, so I agree with you there. There's a few other, Omaha and some others that you should really look into, but of course these teams got to win. Because fans, unfortunately, are, unless the team's been around 50 years, they need to have a pretty good record, or the fans will watch it at the house. But
I think the other thing you fight too, though, is the rabid fans of the NFL somehow look at the UFL or arena football, or you name the type of football. If it's not the NFL, it's not getting the attention. And again, I'm driving to work this morning, and I know I mentioned a couple weeks ago about the radio station here in St. Louis. And again, this morning on my way to work, they start talking about the Battlehawks, and a guy texts into the radio station, St. Louis Battlehawks. That's just dumb. Let's talk about something that matters. And I'm like, that's the kind of mentality you got out there that you got to fight through. I mean,
look, there's always going to be dumbasses out there. I know I shouldn't say what I say, but the world's full of them. And, I love, and I'm sure you see this, Ed, too. It's so cool when we'll get 2 or 3 people post each week in the Birmingham Stallions group. They're coming to their first game. And you think, my God, this is year 5, and you're coming to the first game. But I've never once in 5 years seen somebody try to make a post in our group bitching and complaining that they had a bad time and that they would never be back. It's just getting them there. And you're right, Ed. There's some that would rather take a beating because they're just so stubborn, but there's a lot that's not. It's not an easy sell to some folks because they're thick-headed, but you can get them in that stadium, they'll start watching and they'll come back.
And I think the UFL is trying to do a good job of getting fans to the game. They know what they're up against right now with the economy and the cost of the parking and the food and everything that goes with it. The UFL is trying to get butts in the seats with the buy one get one frees and the 50% offs and all that. And it just comes down to, like you said, Brett, we just got to get them to a game so that they can see the quality of the game, and then hopefully they'll want to come back. And
it's so affordable compared to anything else. that you go to, especially the NFL. I mean, you look at some of these NFL prices and you're like, good God. Like, I mean,
Yeah, we've got the regular. We got the ticket. The schedule's coming out tomorrow for the NFL, and Mama Bear is already talking about trying to make a Vikings game. But as we jump on and we look at ticket prices, like you said, Brett, unless you want to sit in the nosebleed, and then even if you are in a nosebleed, it's still ridiculous. So, but
well, I do a lot of commuting, Ed. Y'all know that, but I did the figuring right now. When gas had went down to $2.19 here in Tuscaloosa area, compared to then and where it is right now, it's cost me another $60 a week in gas. Well, if you do $60 times 4.33, that's $300 a month, all day long and twice on Sunday, that it's costing me extra to get back and forth to work. And my job don't pay that. That comes out of my pocket. So I'm not the only one. So, it's tough right now, but you just throw a couple posts on Facebook or X and just expect people just to, come on, man. They need to see you. They need to know who their ticket guy is. They need to see that smile. And let's put some knowledgeable people out there like Corey Helvey and some of the other guys that's done ticketing in the past that knows a little bit about the teams and football. And I'm telling you, those pop-up tents outside these venues make a world of difference.
So with that said, I think we're ready to move on to our recaps. Let's go to the first game that was a Friday night tilt. Columbus Aviators come to St. Louis. St. Louis pulled out a 31-20 win. It was Luis Perez's first starting game for the Battlehawks. And, initially, St. Louis has struggled on offense all season long. There's no doubt about that. St. Louis had 24 points by halftime. But when you really look at that game, I started looking at the offensive stats for the game. Let's put it this way. Luis Perez there was a lot of passes that he missed in that game. It's just sheer timing, not having the time with the receivers that he needs to have. There was a lot of fade passes, a lot of back shoulder throws on the sidelines that just weren't quite in sync yet. But yet then there was a couple of throws that he had, like the fade in the corner of the end zone, where it was a beautiful pass. So, even though the final score ended up 31-20, you look at St. Louis, Luis was just barely over 50% completion on his passes, just a little over 200 yards, passer rating of 72.1. But I don't know, and I know I commented to Brett during the game, it just seemed like St. Louis found a rhythm that they hadn't had all year long.
Yeah.
And if you look at their output, I mean, between Howard and James, if you take away Howard's longest run of 25 yards and you take away James' longest run of 18 yards, the rest of the time they were 20 carries for 42 yards. So, I mean, their running game wasn't there. Other than Butler had his normal 3 catches for 77 yards. There was a lot of back and forth during that game with Butler and the cornerback that was on him. Coach Prohl and Coach Butler both were pretty frustrated with how that game was being called. But at the end of the day, they came out with a victory. Actually, McClendon's passer rating, 93.3 compared to Perez's 72.1. I guess from an offensive standpoint, even though it's 31-20, there really isn't much to talk about offensively for this game. What do you guys take away from that game?
Columbus, I knew from the get-go they were in trouble because how they typically move the ball is they run to set up to throw. That's just Haley. And Haley's, look, give Haley credit. He's done a really good job with that team this year, in my opinion, especially with some of the off-the-field issues. They're last in the league, Columbus is, in sacks defensively. Something I mentioned to AJ Saturday night, but we'll get to that later. But I knew when they started trying to run the ball from the get-go, look, there's two dominant defenses in this league, and I think St. Louis is a touch more dominant than DC. That front, trying to run on that front with Freeney and number 7 and Carlos Davis and the other big kid, they were set up for failure. And thankfully, Prohl opened things up for Luis Perez. And again, I want to mention he looks like he's in really good shape this year. Not to talk negatively about him, but he was overweight last year, just plain and simple. I don't know if he lost 15 or 20 going into this season, but he was the heaviest I've ever seen him by far last year in Arlington. And when I saw him come back this year, in shape, I thought, he's legitimately going to try to make a run at things. Columbus did start finally loosening up a little bit once they got far behind and started slinging the ball around a little bit. St. Louis does seem, if they can't get to the passer, their secondary is a little vulnerable. And then Ed Ginn Jr. at the end there, while you went for the extra point, it made no difference. And then the guy shanked it on top of it. Ted Ginn deserves to be a head coach about as much as I do, and probably less. And that is what it is. Let's bring Haley back next year in Columbus and just give the man his job, because that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of course St. Louis fan, but I was even losing my mind in the stands when Columbus scored that touchdown in the fourth quarter and went for the extra point versus going for 2 or 3. And, it's just little things like that before the drive even starts, you got to be playing in your mind what you're going to do, what the situation, how you're going to handle a situation, should you score a touchdown, all that stuff. And the commentators touched on that as well. What did you think, KJ?
I mean, I definitely was happy for Perez to get the start. As you said, his completion percentage probably wasn't the most ideal, but I mean, as a game manager and leader of the offense, I think he did a good job. I missed kind of the second half of the game due to personal stuff I was doing, but I mean, didn't seem to be, I guess, a complete blowout despite the margin. But
he was. St. Louis did have a comfortable lead in this one, and then Perez threw his only pick in the third quarter that kind of gave Columbus new life. And believe me when I tell you, looking down from the stands, nobody was harder on Luis Perez than he was on himself. He was doing everything but bitch slapping himself coming off the field. So he knew that he had made a mistake. So, that was one of the reasons why they went to him in the first place, was that, they wanted him to protect the ball and not have the costly turnovers. And so it really did kind of breathe new life into Columbus after that. And even though it ended up never getting to that single score game, it sure was set up in the fourth quarter to become that. So, I mean, even on that missed extra point, if they go for the 2 or the 3 and they get it, I mean, you're in that 4th and 12 situation that you can go right after another. So not only do they miss the field goal, but then they go ahead and they kick it deep, still being 2 scores down with 6 minutes left. So, I mean, you can go over and over and over some of the game situations in that game that I didn't think was handled too well. But if that's all, if there's nothing else for this game, we can move on to the next one. Next game was Louisville traveling to DC.
The shocker of the weekend.
And
You like that? You like that?
well, what's crazy about this game is you look at, I mean, you just look at the numbers, and DC pretty much doubled up Louisville on everything. They doubled up on rushing yards. They doubled up on the passing yards, pretty much. And it's like everything should have went DC's way until the turnovers started happening. And the turnovers that second half were big. I mean, it really took away from their ability to come back that second half, and things just got out of reach real quick.
I didn't have the pleasure of watching much of this game Saturday. I was at work, and thankfully we were busy a good bit of the day. I probably watched 10 minutes at home, but I came back and watched almost the whole game on 2 separate occasions on FS1 at night. And what a hard-hitting game, man. That one hit, that shit was illegal. That's illegal on the West and East Coast. Woo!
Well, but
Roberson, was it Roberson?
yeah, but if you look at, again, I'll say it again. To me, DC is their own worst enemy in a lot of these games because they continue to get the penalties
Right.
on plays that it just kills them to get these penalties. And so in the press conference, Coach Harris, as he commented here, let me get this off the screen so you can see it. We are not going to get discouraged by this loss. We're going to go back to the drawing board and keep chopping wood. But what he also said after that game was that we play a certain physical brand of football, and we're not going to change. We're not going to change the way we play. Well, I understand that you want to be physical, but
You can be disciplined and be physical.
this physical, undisciplined brand of football that you started to play in the second half really hurt DC. I mean, they had a turnover that was negated because of the hit to the head on that, and face it, it was a hit to the head. I mean, there really isn't any argument, and it happened a couple different times.
You talking about when Roberson nailed the quarterback from behind?
Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely head to shoulder. I totally disagree. But that's okay. You know, I'm my vision's been messed up last couple of days. I've had to throw on those glasses. Yeah, you're not wrong, Ed, but you got to be careful about this because I'm telling you, and I told you 2 weeks ago, and for once I'm actually right. For once I'm right. I'm wrong all the time, but I'm not wrong about this. Your St. Louis Battlehawks versus the DC Defenders on June, 13th, the United Bowl with the nice new heavy shiny trophy. You want DC to do all that dumb shit when they play your team. You want, hey, 12 penalties, 150 yards, and come on, baby. Go for the knees, go for the head. Just make sure you don't hurt none of our guys, because that will cost them against the Battlehawks in the championship game. And go ahead and get your tickets, folks. I'm going to try to go up there. If it's even legal for me to go that far north, I'm going. It's going to be a great game. Dude, I'm telling you, Luis Perez and what's his name? Help me out. Jordan Tiamu 2.0. 2.0. When they faced off, in 2023, it was Dallas and DC and San Antonio and Alamo Dome. 2.0 is coming June 13th. So you want DC to just act like the biggest bunch of idiots on that field. Because if they do, St. Louis will be taking home the trophy.
So
And Ed will be screaming, call, 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 all the way down the interstate.
KJ, what's your thoughts on this game?
Oh man, I mean, I don't know if anybody expected it to go this far south. We all knew of DC's ailment and kind of own, as you put it, self-inflicted wound habit that they have from a discipline standpoint. But I mean, it wasn't just a matter of them just beating them; they beat them soundly, and that I know I was shocked. I found it funny. I don't know if it was just the Facebook algorithms or UFL legitimately trying to salvage DC fans' pride, but I swear that hit, not on the quarterback, but the other one was going viral all week on my feed. But it was in spite of the fact that they got their Tookuses smacked around like nobody's business with what the final score was. So.
Roberson shared it 3 times, KJ. And I'm neutral, and I want to be. I'm a league guy, but I want to say, bro, you lost by 17. But of course, I never said that.
That hit's so good. Yeah, it's awesome. No, I will say I think it's cool to see. While it's self-inflicted to some extent by DC's standpoint, the fact that Louisville was able to obviously capitalize on those opportunities. Speaks to its own, I think, affirmation of that team and how they're developing. I think Chris Redmond's done a great job of, working through all the adversity they faced this season, and they're making their stride, honestly, at the perfect time. So, we'll see what this week holds. This, back-to-back matchup for them. I'm sure DC will make a strong concerted effort to turn things around and play more disciplinedly. You got to hope for Jordan's sake that he basically capped off his interception count for the season in that one game alone, and that the rest of the year he'll be back to a more accurate self. But I don't know. We'll see.
It was interesting. Louisville went into Dallas and pretty much dog spanked them, and then they come back that following week and looked pretty abysmal against St. Louis at home.
They just couldn't do nothing. Couldn't do nothing with that St. Louis front four. Couldn't do nothing with them.
Then they go out now to DC
on the road. Yeah,
they won again on the road to DC, but now they're at home again, still looking for their first win at home. But they got DC coming to Louisville, and I gotta think that DC is going to come into Louisville with a purpose. So, with the win, it puts Louisville, right in the hunt for that 4th playoff spot. But they better have their helmets strapped on because I think DC is going to be looking to even the score, let's just say. So if you don't have anything, is there anybody got anything else on this game?
I was really, and I have been all year long, very impressed with not only Louisville, but teams like Houston, Columbus, Birmingham. Those teams have, kind of from the get-go, have kind of, lost a lot of close games, but they continue to fight. I mean, my goodness. the fight that Houston has showed this year in Louisville, I'm really impressed with just the grit by these guys. They're absolute professionals. And again, look at Columbus at 2-4. St. Louis is just taking you behind the woodshed, but they just kept fighting. And despite a bad coach's decision, if he made the right decision there, they might have been within one possession at the end of that game in St. Louis against a very hot, good championship caliber team. So I got to give a shout out to really all the teams in the league have just showed so much fight this year. I'm real proud of them. And Louisville, my goodness, they. But again, like you mentioned, DC is who we think they are, and I would not want to be Louisville this weekend.
Yeah,
But,
I've seen all kind of power rankings coming out, and we'll get into Brett's here in a little while. But I saw so many power rankings where it's the flavor of the day to put St. Louis up to number one. For one, I think DC has deserved their number one spot this whole year. And I'm not going to take all that away based on 1 week. So I still think DC is probably the team to beat in the league. And like I said, Louisville better be ready to play come this weekend because I think DC is going to want to settle the score. Let's move on to the next game. Dallas went into Birmingham as 1.5-point favorites. And it pretty much was a 1.5-point game throughout. Brett, I'll let you take this since it's your.
well, it was once again the performance at home was very disheartening. Started off very, very, very slow again. I talked to some people in the media room in between post-game press conferences, and we still couldn't figure out really how Birmingham won this game. Dallas won on every statistic except for the final score. But again, got to give Birmingham all the credit in the world. They just do not give up. They keep fighting. It has not been your typical Birmingham Stallion season. It has been ugly. They took all they could get to get this game tied at 10-10, and then they kick off to Dallas. Dallas has a great run back right off the bat, marches down there and scores literally like they were playing against, 7-on-7. And then the Birmingham, their whole season was on that last drive, plain and simple. 4th down, and I started glad-handing people and telling them, I'm fixing to head on down and, hate the season didn't turn out the way it did for Birmingham. And they made the 4th down conversion, go down there and score and get it to overtime. And where I was sitting, everybody turned around and saw me, and they all started laughing and said, I thought you were leaving. Like, well, I wasn't, I went over here, maybe I smoked a cigarette, was watching it on TV, and was cussing amongst myself, because I had to be a neutral league guy, so I didn't want everybody to hear what I had to say, because it was not G-rated by any means. And then in overtime, you get back to when Birmingham ties it, and I knew then there was too much time. The kid had a heck of a leg. They march it down there, and I said, well, he's got about 7-8 yards on this. We're in trouble. AJ did a fantastic thing. He frees the kicker, called timeout, and they literally still got the kick off, and the kid made it rather easily. Then, which, of course, freezing him gave him a little bit of time to think about it. Go out there, and Peavy and another guy got great penetration, got their hands up, and swatted the ball down. And, as the clock struck 0, and then you go to overtime. Neuheisel in his post-game press conference was pretty vocal and adamant that he thought that Dallas made it on their first play. Birmingham got penalized, and then Dallas has got it right there at the goal line. I'll say this, when they said that he didn't make it on the field, I did not see any way to where the replay guy was going to be able to reverse it. Do I think the kid made it over? Probably, but you couldn't see it. They said he was short on the field, and there was no way to overturn that. Now, again, that being said, Birmingham scored on both their chances, so I don't know if it would have been the end-all, be-all for Dallas anyways. But Neuheisel was pretty sideways about that first overtime try. And I again,
Yeah, he made no bones about it either.
no, he was 50 shades of pissed for sure. AJ was rather spicy in the post-game interview as well, which I got to ask him a question, which I think he was extremely exhilarated about. Then the Birmingham News got to ask him a question that he was even more happy about. So maybe me and the Birmingham News can go back and forth this Sunday, see which one makes him the maddest, depending on the outcome of the game. But honestly, I thought it was a great game for the league, and being neutral and great finish. And again, these are two teams that are not going to give up. They're still in the playoff race, and we're fixing to go into week 8, and nobody technically is eliminated yet. So
it was a huge win for Birmingham because it pulled Dallas down a notch. And so now you got Louisville, Dallas, and Birmingham all sitting there tied for that 4th and final spot at this point anyway. So
5-5 might get you in the playoffs this year. We've been thinking 5-5 or 6-4, but might be 5-5 gets you in the playoffs this year, or gets one team in the playoffs.
When you look at Birmingham, again, you look at the offensive stats. Oh my! Just like you said, Brett, it didn't look good,
Yeah.
and
Their third down proficiency is the thing that sticks out and screams to me. 2 of 10 or 2 of 12, I guess it would be if you didn't have it.
2 for 10.
Well, they were 2 for 13 against, I think, Orlando.
I mean, you're dead on. If you only looked at the stat sheet and didn't know the score, no one would ever have picked that in the winning team. It's crazy.
I'm sorry, and I still think it's coaching. They are obsessed with running the ball up the middle on first down, and we've had very little success with that this year. And when you're 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 8 on a good first down, you're behind the sticks, and your percentages go lower. And I mentioned that in the post-game press conference a few weeks ago with AJ about maybe a little more creative play calling on first down. But, like he says, we're just fans and we don't know anything. And I get that, but we do have eyes. And
Dallas had 34 rush attempts versus 19 for Birmingham.
They had a package for number 10, and that little boy shredded us. Every time they put him in, he ran, and Birmingham had literally no answer for him.
But, with that many rushing attempts, Tyler Vaughn was pretty much irrelevant in this game. He had one catch for 6 yards. That was it.
Yep.
So I don't know. Dallas has been a frustrating team because I know I was on Dallas because I thought they were way too pass heavy, and they needed to start getting some running game established. And now in this particular game, it looks like maybe they went a little bit too heavy on the rushing, but real nail biter, and it really makes for a big old log jam for that 4th spot. Let's move on. Let's move on to the last game of the week. We'll let KJ take that one because I tell you what, I look at every stat for this game, and you name the stat, and you tell me that you come away from the game as Orlando winning this game. I just, other than the turnovers, the 2 bad turnovers, I thought Houston completely dominated this game. What do you think, KJ?
I mean, they played. They had the ability to win it easily. There's a lot of things I look at with this game, and it just kind of have to scratch your head or throw your hands up at a certain point because it's just. While I agree to some extent with what someone stated in the post-game presser about, it comes down to leadership, and I don't think he was deflecting accountability to any extent, but he made the comment, I think, to some extent that they have a talented roster, they play well, and they're always, in a good position to potentially pull out a win, but it's just they can't finish or they self-inflictedly, shoot themselves in the foot. Sometimes I'd say by his doing and sometimes by others. It's frustrating to see. The thing I had asked about in the post-game presser directly, which I know I echo the sentiment of multiple fans here seeing it, earlier in the week before we reached the weekend, they had announced that they picked up Plumlee since the Steelers had released him. And I don't know who originally shared the source, but the quote from someone was that the intent that he was always meant to be QB1. And he gave some clarity context on it with even in a post-game presser, how it was a contract thing. He didn't want to leave the pro linkage he had, I guess, with the NFL, so they weren't able to secure him at the start of the season. Fair enough. It is what it is. The thing that irked me, and I think so many fans, is that when you look at the stat sheet, while Dickers played good, and not to dock him or anything, but if you take, pick a series at random, theoretically, and compare it with the one series Plumlee had, I mean, the choice to me is obvious of who should have been out there. Someone made the comment that, he was still fresh in the mix while he's very skilled and excelled. He didn't know fully had the playbook. He hasn't had the play experience. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, Deckers got injured week 1 and he's been out for this number of weeks. Okay, granted, maybe he knows more of the playbook. Maybe that's true. But if Plumlee had that level of success calling plays and lead the offense, why don't you use what's there until the defense starts keying on it and reading it right? And then, if you got to go back to Deckers, go back to Deckers to have greater play calling diversity. That to me is like, he makes all these excuses for why they didn't continue to keep him in. But yet then you have to ask the question, well, why did you even put him in to begin with then? If you didn't have any, it's like, it's just weird. It didn't make sense to me. You take away Deckers' one touchdown that he actually actively scored because he didn't score any in the air. And that one, honestly, almost didn't happen because I think the football gods were watching our game on Sunday. And if you go back and watch the game film, any fan who was there knows what I'm talking about. They were there in the red zone within, I think, 10 yards or so of the goal line. Busted coverage or busted pocket play. Decker scrambles to the left side of the field. He's got at least 7 yards in front of him of daylight that he could have ran and gotten more yards. And instead of doing that, he's sitting there trying to make the perfect precision pass throw into a conglomeration of defenders and 1 or 2 receivers. And then the very next play, it's like the same exact thing occurs and the heavens had to open basically. And, God above was going, Deckers, we're giving you a mulligan. Do it again, but run the dang ball. I mean, there were countless people screaming at him just to run it. And he did, and they scored. But you take that away, and I mean, every other series we were settling for a field goal, which, yes, helped us and kept us in the game. The thing that really irked me at the end that I was extremely frustrated with, and I did not understand in the slightest, it made no sense. And you put all the quarterback critique and complaints on the shelf. This one to me still doesn't make a lick of sense. And that is when we were within the point score margin, that last series going down the field, there's like half a minute left, 40 seconds, whatever it is. And literally 3 plays in a row, we run the ball. And they're still at like the 50-yard line where you're forcing Hoyland to try to make another almost 4-point field goal kick that he didn't make earlier in the game. How does that logically make sense? Why are you not trying to pass the ball to get within a touchdown range to score, or at least make the field goal that much easier for him to complete? And they didn't even do that. They just kept running the ball. It was, I was not happy at the end of the game. Similar to Brett, I was having to hold my tongue because I too was in one of the press rooms. Nice thing with Shell Energy Stadium is they've got a patio with ours, so you can step outside and watch part of the games and get good camera angles and shots to catch the players. But it was debilitating, I would say, to watch. So, but,
Well, I know that to me it seemed like watching the post-game presser that someone knew that he was going to get questioned big time on the quarterback decision.
yeah,
And so he went in loaded with Bear, because when you brought it up, KJ, it was a legit question, and he basically just rammed it down your throat and kind of,
right.
just he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. Well, he wasn't ready when he threw that 49-yard touchdown pass either.
Yeah,
You know,
and I
so-
mean, to go back to my critique of Deckers, well, I think he's a great quarterback, and he has done, good enough for us in certain situations. You look at that play where Plumlee scrambled, I would think it was a good 15 or so yards or more. There was no hesitation in that man's vision of the field. The minute he saw the opening and he knew he could exploit it, he was gone. Deckers over here had to have the football gods above part the clouds and shine the light down to go, hello, run the ball, and do the exact same play back to back, basically, as per, materializing before him. So it's just, I don't know.
Well, he definitely, Deckers definitely missed a couple bad passes at the
Yeah,
end.
and he was very forthright to own all those. I think that was commendable on his part to take accountability for those. They were definitely probably some of the most errant ones I've seen him make. I mean, goodness, it was definitely uncharacteristic of him for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what y'all's opinion is of the two turnovers where he had. One of them, I think, when I want to say it was White who was running the ball. I believe we were there near honestly, almost about to score because he was within 15 yards of the end zone. And when I was watching him run the ball as the defender tackled him and forced the fumble, and I think he had textbook like arm over arm positioning of the football. And I think that defender just got ultimately super lucky with pinpoint, locationing of his helmet to just pop it right out there. So I couldn't even hold it against the running back in that one example, but I know the other one was more lack of fundamentals or discipline on our part. So
I'll give you this, KJ, and it is what it is, but we talk about this all the time. We've talked about it on the show. Coaching does matter. And again, I missed about half that game Sunday, and I can't even tell you what I was doing or whatever. I'm sure I was doing errands, chores, whatever. But not only is it a coaching decision to have, in my opinion, the wrong quarterback in there, but like you'd mentioned, the play calling. Because I just didn't see any way that Houston was not going to win that game. Houston had them and should have had them. And again, not to just continually just talk bad about someone, because I have zero against someone, but I mean, damn, you should have won that game. I mean, your season was on the line for the most part. I mean, you're not technically eliminated yet, but you had to have that win. And
just comparing the stats, for passing, Orlando 152 yards, Houston 317 yards, rushing, Orlando 55 yards, Houston 98 yards. You got Orlando 0 sacks, Houston 3 sacks. You got Orlando 2 for 10 on third down. They ran 46 plays versus 70 for Houston. I mean, you can just go on and on and on and on. And the only thing that you can keep coming back to is the 2 turnovers that Houston had. I mean, other than that, this is about as lopsided as you get from a stat standpoint. That you just look at this. If you looked at this before you looked at the final score, you'd be like, huh?
yeah,
Just made no sense. But with the win, Orlando keeps pace tied with St. Louis and DC for the top 3 teams. With that pretty much is the nuts and bolts of the recaps on the 4 games last weekend. Let's go ahead and take a break, and we come back. We'll start getting into the players of the week. We'll get We'll get to the year-to-date stat leaders. But let's instead of playing the same old Wild Sun commercial, let's go into and I challenge any of the other fan bases, the fan pages, whether it's Orlando, you name it. Get to know the players. I want to try and do some breaks where we get to know the players. The first one, courtesy of the UFL, that I'm going to show tonight while we go to break, is Pita, defensive end. I'm not even going to attempt his last name. I know that I should know it by now because I go back and forth with Pita every week. But let's start on this. When we come back, we'll get into the other stuff. But for now, let's get to know Pita a little bit better. We will be right back.
My name is Peter Damwabenu. I'm from California. I'm 31 years old and I play for the St. Louis Battlehawks. I was born here, but I moved to the island of Tonga when I was 3 months old and grew up with my grandfather. My mom wanted me to learn the culture. You know, being Polynesian is important to know who you are, where you come from. And I had to move back when I was 17 because I had no choice. I was supposed to move back like when I was 5, 6, 7, but I told my mom, hey, I love it out here. I just don't want to move back. I only played 1 year in high school, so I learned it 3 months over the summer. And then I played 1 year, and then I went to college for free, and from there, I got drafted to the NFL back 2017. Yeah. The end, finished my career. I become number 5 all-time sack leader in Utah, and then went on to the NFL combine. I came home. I have an agent, and then I talked to my mom. I said, "Mom, I don't know if I'm gonna get drafted, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna keep working hard." Phone was ringing, and I didn't know who it was because I didn't expect to get drafted. It rang a couple of times, and then I answered, and then it was John Lean from the San Francisco 49ers. Like, hey, Peter, calling because we're going to draft you, right? And, you know, they tell me the San Francisco 49ers. And a moment I never forget, you know, someone gave me an opportunity, and I told myself I will never take anything for granted, and I do the same thing here. What I like about football is it's a sport that like you really have to dial in on your craft, and there's always room to improve. You had to treat football like science. And when you're on the field, a lot of people watching, a lot of players on the field, people nervous. I feel nervous sometimes too. Games on the line. The only thing you can fall into is your preparation and all those things that you learn over the week, the months of training camp. And it's just so exciting and feel fulfilled, like when you actually go out there and make it happen. I love this game. I love it so much. Season number 10 for me. You know, I played 6.5 in the NFL. This is 4th in this league. And all the same, it's all competition. And that's what I love about it.
So I'm going to put this up, and I'm going to see if I say it right. You guys have to give me a thumbs up in the comment line. But his last name, Taumoe Penu. So I'll have to, you know, he's really a great guy. He's won 2 times the Defensive Player of the Year in the UFL. So hey, I must have done it.
Good job.
I must have said it right. So there you go. There's These guys would know. These guys would definitely know. They're my tailgating partners. So they got the little dude Evan that it's a joy to see every week. So these guys literally go to every venue during the season. I'm jealous as hell, but now that I'm going to be retired at the end of this year, maybe next year, I'm going to find out what that's like. We will see. So I don't know what Brett does, but let's take him off. So KJ, what should we talk about first? Do we want to knock out let's knock out the playoff
Players.
Let's work on the players. So players of the week honors go to, on offense, Aloha Badger, wide receiver, Orlando Storm, 4 receptions, 75 yards with 2 touchdowns. Defensive player of the week, St. Louis Battlehawk, Jordan Mosley, 7 total tackles, 4 solo, half a sack, and an interception. Definitely was a force. And then for special teams, Colby Wadman with Birmingham, 5 punts for a 53.4 yard average, with the longest being 66 yards. So congratulations to all of the players of the week. Now, I finally figured this out, KJ, because, everybody was saying my lack of sight the last couple weeks. So I figured out how to do this to sound halfway intelligent while I'm doing it. So
There you go.
So let's get into let's get this moved out here. First off, passing yards. Austin Reed sits atop 1,526 yards, followed by Jake Plummer, Jordan Ta'amu, Jaden McClendon. It's kind of funny, you see Jason Baines sitting there at the end in the 5th spot, and he's pretty much been there now ever since he got traded to DC. It's never going to move, so it'll be interesting to see whether anybody is able to overtake that 819 and knock him out of the top 5.
Right. I think we all expected Jordan and Jalen to possibly move up a little more this week, but I know for DC, obviously, we saw what took place on the field in that game against the Kings, and that's probably the reason why he didn't make a further, I guess, progression towards kind of the top 2 spots. But
I know that Austin Reed was had a pretty big lead to begin with, and he kind of came back to the pack. But I was kind of shocked to see that Jack Plummer is above Jordan Ta'amu. That really surprised me. It's not by much.
Nope.
And it might not last much longer, but he is for now. Rushing, leading the league with 356 yards is Jarvian Howard with the St. Louis Battlehawks. Followed by Deion Jackson, DC. Jashawn Corbin with Orlando. John Lovett of Columbus with Day Hunter of Dallas coming in the 5 hole. Far as receiving goes, leading the pack, Jaden Mickens, who's really come on of late. He's really playing some good football right now. He's leading the UFL in reception yards, 486 yards. Hakeem Butler just a mere 4 yards behind. Tyler Vaughn, after one catch for 6-yard week, is kind of fallen back a bit, but all these guys, big time talented, that Tyler Vaughn could wheel off $180 next week. So followed by Elijah Badger and Tay Martin with Columbus coming in the number 5 spot. Let's turn to the defense. Tackles, got a close race going here. Tony Fields with Columbus leading the pack right now, 54 tackles, followed by Kiava Tizino with Birmingham, Ty Crowder with Birmingham, Jaheim Thomas with Louisville, and Fred Tompkins with Columbus. That top 3 spots interchangeable. Pretty impressive to see 2 Birmingham guys sitting at the top of the league. But looking at the stats this last week, their defense is out on the field a lot right now. So it makes sense that they're up there in tackles. Sacks so far, leading is Cam Gill with Louisville, 7 sacks, followed by Malik Fisher with Houston and Carlos Davis, both sitting at 5.5. Carlos Davis is with the Battlehawks. Derek Roberson was DC, and Keyshawn Banks is with Orlando at 4. I got to think that Peta and Travis Feeney got to be up there. So maybe they just don't have enough windows yet, but I would think that they're going to be popping up on the screen before long.
There you go.
And then our last category, interceptions. Sean Wade of Dallas Renegades is tied with Corey Mayfield of Louisville, both with 3, followed by Major Burns, Houston, Sam Kidd, DC, Gary and Conley of DC, all was sitting with 2. So I'm kind of surprised. Here we are through 7 weeks, and the interception totals are pretty low. So,
yeah, it seems to have been spread amongst, I think, each of the defenses more so than maybe we've seen in seasons past. But this would be the one, to your point, Ed, I could see potentially like totally changing theoretically or changing very drastically by the end of the season because the numbers are so stacked on top of one another, basically.
So, Brad, just to keep you up to speed, we went ahead and went through the players of the week, and we just got through through week 7, the league leaders in all the different categories. So, unless you have any comment, we can go right into your power rankings, which don't really have much of a change from last week. In fact, I don't think that you made any changes. Let's throw them up. Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, let me see. That's actually an old one.
Yeah, I never got your new one.
Okay. Well, DC 5-2. I would definitely put St. Louis at 5-2, number 1 spot. I would. BC at 2, Orlando at 3, and of course Birmingham at 4 now. But all 3 of those teams, DC, St. Louis, Orlando, are all 5-2, and Birmingham at 3 and 4 with the tiebreakers over Louisville and Dallas, and Dallas is just very similar to Houston. I don't know how either one of those teams lost those games, but they did. And Columbus and the Gamblers, both at 2 and 5, they've got to win out. They've simply just they've got to win out and hope for some help. And Birmingham's got Columbus twice. They got Houston late. Houston has always given Birmingham problems ever since the league has started back. Again, I think that maybe there might be a 5-5 team in the playoffs. Orlando should have absolutely lost that game to Houston. They should be sitting at 4-3 right now, but they're not. They would have caused even more chaos with them at 4-3, Houston at 3 and 4, along with all the rest of the teams at 3 and 4, except for Columbus obviously still being 2 and 5.
So there's the current standings. Let's go through some scenarios. Of course, with St. Louis, Orlando, and DC, each one of those teams, all they got to do is one win and they're in. I mean, it's basically come down to that. The one win and for either St. Louis, Orlando, and DC, and they qualify for the playoffs. If you go with Louisville can clinch their playoff spot. You know, this is best case scenario. I'm not going to get into all the tiebreakers because that can take forever and it's not worth it. I'm just saying if it's cut and dried, if Louisville wins out, all they have to do is have Birmingham lose one game of their final three, and Louisville would qualify. Birmingham, it's really quite simple. If Birmingham wins out, they're in. Columbus needs help. They've got to win out, and they need Houston and Dallas to both lose. And then Houston, they would have to win out, but they also need St. Louis to lose out, and they need Dallas to lose two of their final three. So I would say out of all of those, it's probably Houston that's probably sucking wind right now.
Yeah.
But I can pop up the remaining schedule. You know, we talked about how do teams get to 5-5. And so when you look at Birmingham's remaining schedule, they're 3-4 right now. Birmingham Stallions remaining schedule, they play at home against Columbus, at Columbus, and then at home against Houston. I see Birmingham, if they're playing good football, Brett, I see that remaining 3-game schedule as very doable to win out, don't you?
Well, I said that, you know, I thought Birmingham had a favorable schedule to win out starting last week. And I just don't, unfortunately, see it happening because they could absolutely beat Columbus twice and beat Houston. They could absolutely run that table. But have they proven all year long that they can really pull that off? They're just there's a reason they're 3-4. They've got some talent. At times they look like a good team, but the inconsistency is just it is like a big flashing light over this team. And again, it's, you know, the defense is on the field so much because they just cannot get off the field on 3rd and 4th and long. Just a lack of pressure. I know they ended up even in overtime against Dallas. They did get 3 sacks the other night. I think Columbus was sitting on 9 and Birmingham was sitting on 10 or somewhere in that ballpark going into last week, and or maybe it was 9 and 8 actually. And Birmingham ended up with 3 sacks, including overtime, and it was much needed because the lack of pass rush has just really it hampered us to close out Houston, and it's really hurt us the rest of the season. And then the first down play calling again, I'm beating a dead horse. I mean, it is what it is. I suspect the 4th team, whether it's Birmingham, Louisville, or Dallas, I just keep seeing 5-5 because are they good enough to be 6-4? Yeah, but they're just too inconsistent. So I see every one of those teams losing another game. But can they get hot and beat any of the top teams in the playoffs? You know, very possible. We've seen that before.
We know how hard it is when you play those back-to-back games, and you know, playing at home against Columbus and then going to Columbus. You know, is it pretty easy to come away with a split? Yeah, but that's not what they need. That's
no.
Then we go to Dallas. I'll put up their remaining schedule. they're also 3-4. They're at home against Orlando. They're at Louisville and at St. Louis. So again, Dallas's remaining schedule is no joke, and I don't know that they're playing good enough football, but I think they, to go 2-1, they've definitely got to win on Friday night. Don't you agree?
Yeah, without question. And Dallas is a good enough team to absolutely ruin Louisville's season in the second game of Week 9 and cost them a playoff spot. But Dallas has put themselves in one heck of a predicament now. That, like you said, those 3 remaining games is whew. But there again, you saw in the first 3 games this year, and you thought, hey, this is a 7-3, 8-2 team. Well, that's not exactly what's happened. I felt like going into Saturday night's game, it was a must-win for both teams. I really did, especially with Dallas's remaining schedule, and they're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble.
Then we got Louisville. Louisville plays at home against DC. They play at home against Dallas, and then they have to travel to Columbus in Week 10. So
call me crazy, but I know they play the Defenders again, obviously this coming weekend. But if they can keep up the level of execution and gameplay they're putting forth right now on the field, I think Louisville actually stands the best chance to get that 4 spot. As crazy as it sounds, it's going to end up being more than likely, if I had to guess, some type of tie-breaking scenario between Birmingham and Louisville come season end. Well, Birmingham, to Brett's point, could definitely run the table. I mean, as many struggles as Columbus has had, the one thing they've always been good about is never falling folly to a back-to-back matchup sweep. So to that extent, you'd have to, if you're gambling on it, I would say you're betting either this week or next week, Birmingham's going to lose to Columbus in theory. And then, come season end, I think that'll be a real, assuming Plumlee's in starting for us, hopefully, that Week 10 matchup in Houston will be a good knockdown, or in Birmingham, will be a knockdown, drag-out game. I mean, it'll be...
like it always is.
Yeah, for sure.
As I was talking to Brett earlier today, trying to figure out how they come up with these
schedules.
St. Louis being first, Orlando second, and DC third. And Eric brings up.
I don't understand that one, but okay.
He goes, what's the formula for the strength of schedule? So does that mean that the strength of schedule, is that what they're using to determine what order they're in the standings right now?
Well, I from what I understand, and this is why I think Louisville and Dallas is in bad shape. I think they're going to need Birmingham to lose 2 out of 3, because I see Louisville and Dallas absolutely going 5-5, possibly. But if Birmingham goes 5-5, I think Birmingham gets a spot because they have beat both those teams heads up, and they've only played once. I think that's why Birmingham's considered the 4th place team right now and not Louisville or Dallas. Even though we've got the same record, Birmingham's beat them both times. So,
yep.
I don't know what's the number 2 tiebreaker, number 3, and number 4, number 5. I know strength of schedule is always on there. And again, like you said, strength of schedule, I guess how you would determine strength of schedule is your opponent's overall win-loss record is the only thing you could use. I mean, am I wrong?
No, because I was looking at St. Louis and DC, and I think St. Louis beat DC by, what was it, 7 or 8 points that first game of the season, and then I think St. Louis lost to DC in DC by, I think, 5 points or 6 points. So if it was point differential, I could see where they put St. Louis above DC, but then you got Orlando coming in the mix. And if it's strength of schedule, I would be saying there's no way it's strength of schedule, because if you look at Orlando's first 5 games of the season, their strength of schedule would not be
Right.
St. Louis's first half of the season was against all pretty much top teams. And
Well, to your point as well, Ed, the confusing part about it is which at least what I'm used to most typically, and you see this in college too, until you get to kind of the end point where playoffs or the championship are determined, they usually always rank them by, points for and points against in terms of the standings. And I mean, outside of what the shutout game Orlando had against Birmingham, a lot of they haven't really had large scoring margins in nearly any of their matchups compared to the ones DC's had. Granted, they got their, socks rocked this last weekend, but they still had at least half the scoring margin covered. So just mathematically, even that assumption on how they did it doesn't track or doesn't seem to line up fully, I guess, if you will, when you look at 2 and 3. So I don't know.
So when you look at Columbus's remaining schedule, they play at Birmingham, then they play at home against Birmingham, then they play at home against Louisville. And so they've got to go 3-0 just to get to 5-5. And with those 3 remaining games, I just don't see that they're able to do that. So pretty tall task for Columbus. I think they're going to be jumping into more of a spoiler role here to finish out the season. And then you look at Houston's remaining games. To get to 5-5, they have to go 3-0, and they're at St. Louis, home against St. Louis, and then at Birmingham.
Jesus.
So Houston probably is in that spoiler role as well. So I know that as far as the top 3 teams are concerned, DC has just got to be one of the top 2 teams, and they get to be home. They'll have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. St. Louis needs to get that number 2 seed at least so that they can have one home playoff game. And then you've got Orlando. Orlando's remaining schedule, they play at Dallas and then they home and away against DC. So I don't know. DC and Orlando are going to duke it out to see where that number 2 seed falls.
Yeah.
But
I guess
St. Louis and DC just need to be in the top 2 at the end of the year to have it go down about as well as can be expected, I guess you would say.
I'd say all the remaining teams. I mean, and again, all the teams technically have a shot right now. I would pick Houston over Columbus because at least Houston does have a pass rush, but their remaining schedule is god awful.
Yeah, to your point, Brett, I would say, I mean, as bad as the schedule is, and this is definitely spitballing, of course, I'll acknowledge the fact since I'm only taking a very small amount of data to base this assumption off of, but if they start Plumlee the rest of the year and the guy can master the playbook, I mean, I could see them running the table, but to your point, we're in that weird crux where it's like, even if we do win all out the remaining 3, we're still at the mercy of other teams doing other certain things for us to even, stand a chance to get in. So it's just not.
Well, if Houston did win out, they would automatically be above Birmingham because Birmingham and them could have the same record, but then obviously Houston would have the tiebreaker because they had beat them twice. So that would eliminate Birmingham immediately.
True.
But at St. Louis and in St. Louis at home with that pass rush, it's like speed. What do they say? Speed don't go to sleep. Speed don't get sick. What is that saying? Well, a damn pass rush don't either. And I know I'm a defensive guy, but every time I see St. Louis and DC's pass rush, I almost get a Woody. Now, I know y'all didn't need that out there for the viewers. I just wish my Birmingham team played a little more attention to the defensive side of the ball because defense still wins championships. AJ.
Well, you had a couple defensive players last year that are doing rather well on other teams this year.
Carlos Davis. That was going to be one of my questions Saturday night if Birmingham was going to lose. Do you regret not protecting Carlos Davis now that he's second in the league in sacks in St. Louis? And he was a 3-year starter in Birmingham. That would have been an interesting guy to keep. Just a thought.
Question for you, gents. I'm just spitballing this, thinking about it conceptually, but let's say Orlando goes into Dallas this week and gets the win. Most of us probably may end up picking that way, but even with that one win, if DC, for instance, is able to beat them in week 9 and 10 in back-to-back matchups, is there a possibility where we see Orlando completely fall out of the playoff race?
I think
It's slim, albeit I know it's a slim likelihood, but I mean that whole tie-breaking thing would essentially be what it falls into then, and they'd be sitting at the 4 or 5 fringe.
No, if they would have lost to Houston, that was in the back of my mind all week last week, and unfortunately, not knocking your boys, KJ, but y'all had that opportunity to really put them in a very precarious situation with DC coming up twice and in the other game. Yeah, they would have been in trouble if Houston would have pulled that game off.
And I think when AJ, it is one of his pressers that I was sitting in on, when he made the comment that he thinks they could run the table and be the number 3 seed, not the 4 seed. I think AJ a couple of weeks ago made a comment in his presser that he felt like Birmingham could win out. And if they won out, he said we could be as high as the number 3 seed. And I think the only way that they'd be the number 3 seed is if, like you said, Orlando stumbled a couple times down the stretch.
Yeah.
And my response to AJ would have been, yeah, if my aunt had balls, she would be my uncle. This team, AJ, from what I've seen in 7 games, brother, let's take it one game at a time because running the table good God almighty, my man. That was, we were blessed. Birmingham has been blessed our first 5 years. We have won the majority of our close games with Skip and with Sir Know-It-All. And look, hey, they catch fire and win a championship, I'll kiss my own ass on this show live. And it's not like I don't want to do that, but Birmingham has got to play better. You can't wait till the fourth quarter to start trying to play. It just doesn't work like that. These guys are professionals.
So I'm wrong. Eric proved me wrong. St. Louis beat DC in the week 1 by 6 points, and then turned around and lost by 6 in DC. So it's a wash there. So again, I can buy this strength of schedule argument, but I can't buy it with Orlando being above DC for strength of schedule. So
Agreed.
I don't know. There's got to be something else at work there. So having said that, let's see. There was just a couple moves. I know that Columbus, their kicker doinked one off the crossbar in the upright in the fourth quarter, and come and find out he was released, and they have signed Jonah Dalmas. Played for Boise State for 4 years as their kicker. So
if you can kick on that ugly ass blue turf, you can kick.
Then the only other move that I saw was Orlando. They signed a linebacker. These names, whatever happened to like John Smith and in early, that kind of thing. What's all this?
What's the kid that I just saw got announced? They had an NFL signing on pickup. It was Squirrel something with the freaking, I think it's
Squirrel
49ers.
White.
Yeah,
Squirrel
Squirrel.
White.
Talk about it.
Don't be talking about Squirrel now. He played at Tennessee. I'm glad Squirrel gone. Squirrel was running all over the field, man.
Yeah.
Old Squirrel. Man, he was a big player there at Tennessee.
So before we get into,
We missed some signings earlier today, Ed. I saw them late. Some transactions, and I didn't get a chance to send them over to you. But one of them that stuck out to me, I know y'all remember this name, Perion Winfrey. Remember Perion Winfrey?
Yeah.
Oh, you remember Perion Winfrey? Well, he was the one that made that tweet after one game. Oh, this coaching staff ain't it. You know, now I ain't gonna argue with him on that. But he basically said he quit. He's gonna go to the house. Well, come to find out, AJ all day Sunday was trying to get rid of him, make a trade for him. Nobody wanted him. Well, let's fast forward to what Tuesday, and Columbus signed him, right? Columbus Aviators signed him. Well, today, after 2 games, they released him.
Oh.
So I guess you're right, Perion. You will be finishing the rest of the season from home. Or would it be interesting for AJ to resign? I wouldn't even know what to say to AJ Sunday. I'd be like, well, yeah.
yeah,
So,
Eric's
yeah.
point here. This is why I can't pronounce any of these names anymore.
Well, it's all the Polynesians coming in. Hey, don't be talking about my Polynesians, man. I'm favorable in Polynesians. We got some Tagovailoa, whatever the hell you call it. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a sight to see? We have a full formal haka being done on a UFL game day field at some point in the future. That'd be pretty cool.
And I tell you what, The Rock's all about putting a team in Hawaii. I would love to see the travel, the fuel cost on that shit.
Yeah.
Woo. But yeah, man, I'll tell you what, they are some great ball players, and that culture I learned a lot about with the Tua and his brother being here for so long. They're very, very old school, family oriented. You know, father makes the calls, but anything important decisions, they have a big family meeting. It's
right.
Man, they're warriors, gladiators. Don't be talking bad about those Polynesians now.
I don't know. I respect the
I
culture.
take a whole team full of them right now in Birmingham. I'm just saying. I couldn't pronounce their name, but I would just give them a thumbs up smile, you know.
So Fox has got to be pretty happy with their Friday nights because, again, this last Friday between St. Louis and Columbus drew 684K, the highest viewership of the year for the league in this time slot for the ages of 18 to 49. And it's also was the second highest this year so far. So, yeah, I mean, Fox, I guess they don't hold a candle to ABC, but I would say Fox has got to be pretty pleased with how their Friday nights are going.
I think they're solid. I know the last administration, I'm sure Mike does too, was paying a lot of attention to the growth on the social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, all the new followers per team and per league. And man, I'm seeing a huge growth on Facebook. I mean, sometimes it's 200, 300, 400 people a day, which is a great sign.
Yep. So heading into week 8, we're ready to do our picks. Let's talk about the games coming up. We'll go game by game. So let's go ahead and take that off. Let's go back to the first game.
Hold on, Ed. Do you have said picks from Eric? Do you have? Okay.
I had to remind him, but I have them. And KJ,
Little tease wonder.
these are the latest and the greatest
Good.
lines.
I like it.
Okay, so first game is on Friday night. Is it Fort Hood? Is that where they're playing?
Yep.
And Coach Beck was hoping for a few Orlando fans, and
That was the highlight of his comment in the post-game presser. He said he hoped some of the military guys were transfers from Florida. I could appreciate the joke there. It was a good chuckle I got out of it.
Got Orlando 5-2. They're currently tied with DC and St. Louis for the number 1 spot in the standings. Dallas 4 lost 4 in a row. They're in a free fall. They're 3-4, but they are still 1.5 point favorites for this Friday night tilt from Fort Hood. Eric took Dallas. I'm also taking Dallas. I just think that Orlando, I don't know. Let's just put it this way. I haven't been impressed with Orlando's offense. In Dallas, I just think they're due. I mean, they're a better team than what they've shown. And I got to think in Fort Hood, they're going to have a pro Dallas crowd. And I think that extra oomph of actually having the stands packed, because I'm sure it will be a sellout, because what they say, I think the field they're playing on holds like 6,000.
Yeah.
It's like 6,000 fans. And I got to believe, since it's on a military base with, families being able to accompany the, I got to think they're going to sell it out, don't you? I don't know.
They need to force the troops to come to the game. Let's take. Come on, guys.
I'm sure they probably will. Yeah, that's part of the pitch for it.
So I'm going to take Dallas. I think Dallas finally gets off the schneid and gets back to 4-4, giving them a fighting chance to still make the playoffs. I got Dallas. What about you, KJ?
Man, well, they're definitely, you are correct to say they're due for a rebound. If anything, I've learned from Anthony that while I think we all agree on his good old university choking capabilities when it comes to crunch time in the playoffs, I mean, while we were in a position to win last weekend, they made it a game despite playing, the prominent defense we have. And I just don't know if I can trust much of Dallas' secondary to really keep them contained, despite Orlando maybe not having one of the highest performing offenses in the league. With that in mind, I mean, I think I'm going to take the flyer and go with them. I think Orlando can pull this one off, but we'll see.
Brett?
What exactly is a renegade? And what type of storm are we talking about? Are we talking about a tsunami? Are we talking about a thunderstorm? Are we talking about a tornado maybe? Now, look, Coach Beck seemed like a bit of a villain to me, good, bad, and indifferent. And Dallas reminds me of one of my favorite songs. The first ever concert I went to, Oak Mountain in Birmingham. KJ might be familiar with that place. Tom Petty. And what was one of his songs, one of his mini hits? Free Falling. Dallas is falling off a cliff. And I still sit here today on a Wednesday night trying to figure out how they lost that game in Birmingham, even though I'm a Birmingham fan and I'm thankful for it. Oof. Give me the Storm. Give me Orlando.
So I got, here's the injury report heading into the game. guess I should have put this up earlier, but any big names you see on there? Looks like Bugs has not participated in practice yet this week.
He's a gladiator. He'll be in there on Friday night.
He's the biggest one that I can see from that list, the name recognition side of things.
Brandon Sebastian played for the Battlehawks for a couple of years before this year. Looks like he's battling a concussion, so he might be out for Orlando as well. So I know Dallas, they're already kind of getting light at the wide receiver position. And Burnett's got a shoulder issue, and he hasn't been participating. So that makes them even thinner. And
Day compounds it even more, to your point, Ed, because if they can't do anything on the ground, they're going to be very one-dimensional this weekend.
Yeah, and
Pretty one-dimensional against Orlando. They got a good defense. You got to admit.
and Tyler Vaughn, you know, that just is that much more attention they can give to Tyler Vaughn. So I don't know. Maybe I should have reconsidered my pick. I can technically still change my pick, can I? But
Y'all haven't let me do that.
I'm gonna stick with it. Let's see. What do we got here on the comment line? We got
Marty's got Orlando.
Orlando.
Eric does too.
Eric's taking Orlando. We got
Michigan footballers going with I think Dallas. So
John David took Orlando. Robert took Orlando. Wow, it does look like I'm out on a limb here.
what was Eric's pick? Did you already say it, Ed, or did I miss it?
He said
I took
Dallas.
Dallas. He
Dallas,
took
okay.
Dallas.
I
So
swear,
we got a complete split. Second game of the week is the DC Defenders, 5-2. They're a 6-point favorite. They were a 10-point favorite last week. They're down to a 6-point favorite at Louisville. Louisville scrapping, trying to get the last playoff spot and trying to get their first win at home. Does it happen, KJ? It's an 11 o'clock game on Saturday. Don't like 11 o'clock games, but that's what it is.
I definitely can foresee DC rallying here and obviously playing much better than they did this past weekend. But that margin with the betting odds is just not in their favor in my eyes. I think this will be a closer game than maybe some expect. I don't expect it to be kind of a complete flip-flop of the scoring margin we saw this past weekend with the Kings winning. So even if they don't get the win, I think I'm still going to take Louisville just based on that 6 spread, because I could definitely see this coming down to a field goal, whether it be a 3 or 4 point margin. So
I'm going to go with DC. I think that he is – they are going to go into Louisville to get back what they lost. Let's just say this last weekend. I think that they are – I feel bad for Coach Redmond because I know how bad he wants that first win at home. But I just think – what did you say, Brett? I think you described it as DC's going to go in there and absolutely dog stomp them. Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's a there might be charges pressed after this game. And keep in mind that the coaching staff that you've got there in DC and the mentality of the players there already. It could. I like KJ's thinking, I really do, because Louisville is a tough team. You gotta give them credit. They fought hard. They very easily could be 4-3 right now. They were this close to beating Birmingham in week 1. I hate they haven't won a home game yet, but I think they're gonna have to save that for their last home game. I think DC, it's pimp, slap, curb, stomp, take them behind the woodshed, violate them, whatever you want to say. DC by 50.
Yeah, I got DC, and Eric has DC as well. So KJ is on a limb. Trying
Hey, it
to,
worked for me this past weekend, so I'll take those odds.
Yeah. KJ's going to be taking the lead, too.
I'm trying. Late play here.
and we got Robert put all of his picks way up high. He's got DC. John's got DC. Marty's got DC. Eric's got DC. You are definitely out on a limb, KJ.
It's
You
all
lost
good.
the comment line. You lost the bottom line crew line. You're by yourself there, dude.
Hey, I gotta do something here because if my team can't win, I'm gonna at least do my part to win in the Pick'ems world and salvage that with enough of my fandom in general. So,
Next game is 2:00 Saturday afternoon on ABC. You got the Houston Gamblers at 2-5 traveling to St. Louis. 5-2. St. Louis is 7.5-point favorites.
What do you think, T?
Eric is taking St. Louis. I am also going to take St. Louis. St. Louis is tough at home. I think Perez has had another week to get in sync with the receivers. I think him and Hakeem have got something up their sleeve. I did see Ja'Cour Pearson, JPZ, more involved in the offense than he has been to date with St. Louis. You know, McBride, they got Blake Jackson out there doing some wildcat. So, I mean, you can tell AJ is starting to open up that playbook a little bit. And I think with Luis Perez at the helm, he's just going to continue to open things up. Getting ready for the end of the year and making a serious playoff run. Houston might give them a game early, but I think St. Louis will win and they'll cover. I got St. Louis, as does Eric. KJ?
this might be the one or second half of the weekend slate, I think, where we have a full pick'em sweep of the same team. I definitely like Plumlee. I think he will give us renewed spark and vigor in the quarterback role if they choose to let him play and start this weekend. But I definitely concede y'all's knowledge and experience with knowing St. Louis's defensive prowess as well. And I think they can cover that spread because I've seen too many self-inflicted mistakes on our part. It doesn't look like it's going to be changed anytime soon. And with that in mind, Battlehawks will get a dub here pretty easy.
Brett?
You know, Houston is a tough physical team. They play hard. They had one game earlier this year that just kind of got away from them earlier, and it just really dominoed effect there in DC. And after what happened this past weekend, where literally their season was probably lost, unfortunately, I think St. Louis covers this spread. I just do. Now, could Houston score a late touchdown and beat the spread? Absolutely, but I'm going to stick with St. Louis on my pick.
So we got John David asking KJ, wanted to know, are you going to be coming to the game?
I am not. I have my daughter this weekend, so family comes first.
So it sounds like Eric in the comment line is going to be easy on you, KJ, because he's probably going to be down in Houston next week tailgating with you. So
It wasn't Eric I'd seen in our fan groups online, but I think y'all talked about him last week. One of the other super fans he was making an effort to find out who from our tailgating crew would be going up there, because I think he had given the invite to join, for folks to join his tailgate, basically pregame. So I know we'll have I think the Predator couple's going on the road to go to that game, so they'll be up there. May have one or two others of our kind of niche fan group. I don't remember who else commented that they would be attending, but
Robert is taking Houston. Does that make him a bigger fan than you, KJ?
no, he's still drinking the pipe dream Kool-Aid, which I don't blame him. I'd love to be an eternal optimist too, but I'm trying to win a pick'ems this year. So
John David's got
As-
St. Louis. Marty's got St. Louis.
as Davy Crockett would say, y'all can go to hell, and I will go to Texas. So.
I'm trying to remember the Michigan footballer who's commenting quite a bit tonight. Trying to think of his real name. Is it Chad? Just give me a thumbs up if it is Chad. But it looks like everybody is taking St. Louis except for Robert. So I think I've had Robert, saw Robert a lot with the Houston Post. So I think he's right along with you, KJ, right?
Oh no, yeah, he's a diehard. He's been there since I think OG. I don't know if he was there since 2020, but I know he's been following the team since 2023. And he lives up in freaking shoot, I can't remember the state. Is it Vermont? He'll have to remind you. Right?
Wow.
I forget what state you're in. He's in Vermont or somewhere up way up north. So I think he's maybe made it to one game in his career as a fan, but he's a diehard. So I give him that applaud and credit to him. We
Then
need more remote fans.
The final game of the week, Columbus, who's 2-5, probably realistically in the spoiler role, travels to Birmingham. Birmingham's established as 3.5-point favorites. Birmingham needs this game bad. Are they going to get it, Brett?
Well, thanks to scheduling again, they're probably going to get it in a rather empty stadium. Noon on Sunday in Alabama, where half the state goes to church. I mean, it is what it is. I like Birmingham to win the game, but can they beat anybody by 3.5 points the way they played this year? I mean, I hate to continue to be an ass about them, but I mean, I've watched, I always go back to our defensive line, and Haley's a hell of a play caller, and Columbus is really good in the run game. Give me, I can't believe I'm doing this. Give me Columbus plus the 3.5.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Brett, they're going to cut a corner off your fan card after this season. You keep
Well, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe I was born or hatched in Missouri and I didn't know any better, and I was transplanted to Alabama because I'm one of them show me's. I must have been from the show me state. Show me y'all can beat somebody by 3.5 points. Show me.
I mean, they technically did it against Dallas, but that I the first all year that it's happened. So,
Well, KJ, I'm going to give you the last laugh. Eric is taking Birmingham, and I'm going to take Birmingham as well. I think that it's just too big a game. I understand where Brett's coming from, but
I'm not saying Birmingham's not going to win the game, but
I know, but I get what you're saying, but I think Birmingham's gonna cover that 3.5. I'm taking Birmingham, and so is Eric.
make that 3 out of the 4, Ed. I don't know, man. If things keep going this way, and Mike Mr. Rapoli gets some sense knocked into him this offseason, we get a new head coach in Houston, me and Brett might have to trade teams. I feel like I'm turning into a Birmingham fan slowly, week by week, more than he is. I think they'll hit their stride here. I'm going off more so, if anything. While I agree with Ed, I think they can cover the point spread. And I would argue Columbus necessarily isn't as good as Dallas has the capability to be, despite their downward trend they've had over so many weeks now. That being said, I think for me, the thing I'm looking more to the future is that in these back-to-back games, Columbus always does well when they go back home and they are able to pull up the win. So if I'm going to pick them to lose either one of the week 8, week 9 game, it's going to be this week. So that's why I'm kind of leaning on the Stallions to come.
Ed, you gonna let me change my pick?
No, not
Well,
allowed.
you know, I'm a defensive guy, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, I've watched my team play, but what did I tell AJ Saturday night? There's one team with less sacks than Birmingham in the league, and that's Columbus. Now that I think about it, I think DTR is going to run them all over the field, and I think his mom, unfortunately, is not going to be back this week. She'll be back for the final game against Houston. But I got to meet her Saturday, and she was pretty cool. Give me Birmingham by 10, only because Columbus has no pass rush. Now watch Birmingham win by 3, and
What's your verdict here, Ed? Are we going to let him do this or not? He tried to pull this shit last year, I think.
We're technically not even off the game yet, so.
All right.
So we got.
Well, if we're doing that, then do you want to recall yours, Ed? Because what was it? Which game was it you made the comment about?
No, it don't work like that.
We were still on the game when he asked the question, was he not?
Yeah, what was that game, Ed? Which one was that?
Dallas Orlando.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what you think?
I'm gonna stick with my pick. I'm gonna stick with
all
Dallas.
right.
I think they're due, and I think the
Yo Stallions, Joe UFL.
I think
See, people, this is how you get in under Brett's skin. You insult his ego and his fandom, and he just can't stand it. He can't take it. He's got to go back. He's got to be like KJ and die on the hill when all odds are against his team.
Or it's this one by Marty.
Yeah,
where he does a fill in the blank.
He saw Marty giving him shit, and he's like, I can't sit to this game on Sunday.
I got to go to the game with this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we eat together, we sit together. He puts up with all my yelling and cussing and throwing, and
he's like, this mother trucker's going to be cussing me out all game. I can't deal with that. I got to switch my pick.
Marty's like, I ain't even sitting with him. I ain't gonna sit with him. You got to admit, Marty, it's been a rough-ass season for us. We're spoiled, and I tell you what, it's been some sad singing and slow songs there at Protective Stadium this year.
Your Auburn arch rival just said you're not a super fan like they are, Brett.
I know. What was that, Jay?
Jay and yeah.
How many games you missed, Jay, this year? How many watch parties? I'm driving 10 million miles a day, and on my off day, I'm coming up to the Ham for the watch party. That's how all in I am, my man.
See, he's using Houston lines. I'm telling you, he's switching on y'all. Y'all better watch out. We're going to be
even Jay. Jay can be critical of me, but I told him. I talked to Jay Saturday night after I did the post-game press conference with AJ, and I had some messages after it too. Some people's really interested in what I was going to say. I'm like, it was going to get really bad if we would have lost that game. But when AJ said, "Oh no, we like our guys. We're good. Where do you want to sign these guys? Where should we sign them?" I think Sunday I'm going to say, "Well, you signed like 3 or 4 others this week. Whatever."
So I think that kind of wraps it up for another Wednesday night. Thank everybody again for tuning in.
Hey, let's ask Jay real quick while he's in the comment section. Are you actually going Sunday, Superfan? Actually, I call him Super Pooper is what I call him because he ain't no damn super fan. He thinks he's a super fan. He calls himself a super fan.
Yeah, that's what he's calling himself. He's
Hey,
calling
if you a super fan, you ain't gotta say nothing. Everybody knows you a super fan. You feel me? If you're the baddest man in the room, you're usually the quietest man in the room. The loudest man in the room is usually the softest man in the room. I'm just saying, Jay.
He
Yeah,
says, "Hell
I
yeah,"
will.
so
I
guess he'll
will
be
see
there.
you on Saturday. Hopefully, the rain's going to hold off. There's like a 30% chance of rain on Saturday. They said it's going to be hit or miss.
Oh, but
I just hope it misses my tailgate. That's all I care about.
well, Birmingham, you know, hell, there's always an excuse in Birmingham, so they'll come up with something. We've already got one. It's on Sunday, and I'll leave it at that.
But I want to thank everybody again for watching. Thanks to all the pages that are allowing us to post our show. Really looking forward to another great weekend of football, man. It's just seems like the season started and we're already heading into week 8. So before you know it, this season's going to be history. But a lot of exciting football until then. So go out to the games. If you can't get to the games, watch it on TV and playing some good football. Let's see who wants that 4th spot. Who wants in the playoffs? We'll find out this weekend. We'll see you next Wednesday, everybody, 8 p.m. Central.
And that's the bottom